Welcome to the Riding in the Weeds podcast, where we tackle life's inevitable challenges, from navigating mountain bike trails to overcoming business hurdles and forging deeper connections with pets and people. It's easy to find yourself tangled in the weeds, but we're here to help with insights and strategies that'll get you out of the weeds. Our goal is to boost your performance in both sports and everyday life by sharing essential skills that we've learnt along the way. Through tales of our entrepreneurship journey, thrilling biking adventures, and fostering meaningful relationships, your hosts, Natasha, Lockey, and Ginny, Branden, will guide you on a journey that's not only enjoyable, but also inspiring. Join us to gain confidence that you need to navigate the trails of life. Welcome to Riding in the Weeds. You are here with us for episode 47, and today we are talking about working lightly. What does that mean? Really, we're just talking around the idea of expectations and what happens when you hold on to things really tightly versus allowing yourself a little bit of space, a little bit of grace, and moving through creating the life that you want and doing it lightly versus having these really tight expectations of what you're trying to achieve. And then when you don't get the exact result that you want, you kind of give up. It's a really, really good way to get stuck in the weeds. And we're going to talk around some tools and some strategies with this topic that enable you to just keep moving forward and not constantly be getting stuck and finding yourself rolling in the eddies. So this is a topic that Ginny is super excited to talk about today. And how are you doing?
I'm doing good, Tosh. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you. So where did this topic come from? Why are we talking about working lightly?
Yeah, so I've worked now with a business coach for several years. His name is George Cow, and he has this concept as part of some of his curriculum and things that he works with. And what I realized is that it applies across the board to so many different aspects of our life, not just business work. And I find that it's so easy to get bogged down. You want to do something, you have an idea of what you think it should look like. There's that S word that we've talked about before. And then when it doesn't happen that way, it's easy to be like, well, I'm a failure, I should just quit. All the negative things start coming up. And the idea of working lightly is basically around taking a more experimental approach to whatever you're working on. So whether that's business, whether that's pet training, whether that's bike riding, whether that's a fitness goal or a weight loss goal. And instead of having a strict, rigid idea of what you want it to look like or what you want it to be, just being a little more open to different options or different choices. I think the best analogy that we've kicked around with this idea is that working lightly is, to go back to the sailing metaphor that we've used before, working lightly is being able to set your course with a sailboat and constantly adjust when the current changes, when the wind changes, so that you're still working towards where you want to go, but you're enabling your boat to make the changes that you need. If you don't make those changes, once you set course, as the environment around you changes, you won't get to where you set out to go in a sailboat. It's just not going to happen. So that's what working lightly is about, is having that openness to keep adjusting along the way, to receive the feedback of what's going on in the environment, and then keep adjusting.
Yeah, I love that. So many thoughts come up when you talk. And one of the things that popped up for me, so mountain biking, there's the idea of cleaning a trail, right? So if you're going to go out and you're going to climb to the top of the mountain, and the idea, I want to clean this trail. I want to get from the bottom of the mountain to the top of the mountain without putting my foot down, without stopping for a break. That is the ultimate goal, and I can check that off my box and feel really good about myself. I've tried this. I've achieved this. And I will definitely say that there have been times when I've fallen prey to the idea that it wasn't good enough. And I've decreased the fun and the joy of my ride because I didn't make that corner. And things happen, as you say, right? You might slip out on a rock or slip out on a route. And I do find that these days I am a lot less attached to cleaning a trail. Because let's be honest, I'm not going back to the bottom to start over. And so I really hold it very lightly. The goal is I'd like to get to the top without putting a foot down. And that might not happen today, and something might go wrong. It's the wrong way to put it. But something might happen along the way that stops that. And it's a moment of reflection, right? There's feedback. So why did I have to put my foot down? Why did I dab? Why did my back wheel slip out? When you hold that as a transformative goal, like that's what I would like to achieve. And then when it doesn't quite happen, you get to learn so much along the way, which works a lot better than being like, I suck. I'm clearly not a mountain biker. I need to turn around and go back to the bottom. And now, am I going to want to go out and ride my bike again tomorrow if that's the attitude that I'm having with every bike ride? Whereas if I hold that goal lightly, yeah, that's the ultimate. That's what I'd like to be able to do. But every time I go out, it's an opportunity to get better and get to the point where I can do that. And so often when we trip, or so often if we're too focused on getting to that goal, we actually miss opportunities to learn along the way. And that, I think, is the real downfall of holding things too tightly. We don't get to have fun along the way when we're stuck in that real rigid mind frame.
Yeah, I think that is the clear picture of what working lightly is not, is having a one way is the only way that this can look or work or be in order to be successful. And the world doesn't really work that way. As soon as you set that kind of a statement out there about anything you're doing, the universe is generally going to flip it on its head and be like, well, guess what? Not this time. So if you can learn to work lightly around everything you're doing and hold on less tightly to the expectations, to the outcome looking a certain way or happening in a certain time frame, I think that's a big one that I'm guilty of, is I think, oh, this should take this amount of time. And then when it doesn't happen as quickly as I think it should, there's S word again, then I end up feeling like I've failed.
And the only option you have then is to downgrade your goals in order to achieve them, right? So if you wanting to get all the things on your list done in one day, well, then only write one thing on that list and you'll achieve that. But then where are you at, right? So you've got two options. You either go for that like big transformation goal, or you live in that transactional space of only shooting for the things that you know you can do. Back to my mountain biking. Okay, well, if I want to go clean trails, I'll go and ride greens. I'll clean them every time. Even last year, I was going out and I was killing it on this one trail. It was a green trail, uphill climbing. Yeah, it was not an easy climb, so I'd make it more challenging. But then I went out and I went to ride up a challenging climb, and I got tripped up and my little ego was like, oh, I guess I'm not killing it quite how I was envisioning, because I wasn't challenging myself at all. And, you know, it's not about having no expectations, but it's about really holding the expectations in a light space. This is my transformation. This is where I want to be. And I get that there's a road that I have to travel down in order to get there. And everyone's got to go through their paces. You can't just arrive at the destination without really taking some knocks along the way.
Yeah. I think one of the other pieces of this for me is that working lightly also means focusing on the next best step in the situation for whatever is showing up right then and there. If I have a training goal that I want to achieve with my horses, the first thing I need to do is look at what the next best step is. Right now I have a foster horse from a rescue in this area, and I wanted to start her into the program that I've been working on Storm with for years and years and years. I was already well aware that I was not going to be starting at the same place that I started him at even years ago, because she is coming from a different place. She's also a lot older than when I started him, so she has a lot more history. And I tried to work on her right side, which is considered by horse people to be the quote off side. She couldn't handle it at all. She could not even cope with me being over there on that side of her body comfortably. safely. I was a threat to her on that side. And so it blew all of my thoughts and plans out of the water because we couldn't keep doing what we were doing the same way because I knew we weren't going to get through it. I had to completely readjust. And so that's holding lightly, like, okay, so we can't start where I even expected to start. We have to go back further and start over with some skills that for whatever reason she doesn't have. And there's a million different reasons why she doesn't have them, but none of them matter. She doesn't have it, so I have to pick it up. I have to take care of it and help her find the safety that she needs in that process. The thing is, day to day, especially with your animals, you never know what you're going to get. So holding lightly onto your expectations and your goal for training is important because they may not be feeling the same way. It's the same with riding bikes too, because you don't really know, even that green trail that you've ridden a bunch of times, if the weather's different. It could be dry, it could be wet, there could be leaves on the trail, there could be sticks on the trail that weren't there before. And that may prevent you from having a, quote, clean ride, but yet, at the same time, you have to deal with the environment around you. And the lighter we can hold those things, the easier it makes it, because then there's no wrong answer. Then there's no failure. It's all feedback. It's all information. It's all things you need to work on and just how you need to adjust so that you can keep the end goal in mind and adapt the path to get there.
Yeah, I think that's really good. The adapting the path to get there is so key. As we go through ups and downs. I was talking to a friend yesterday and she's like, I struggled this winter because I had low energy. I didn't want to go and do the things that I love to do. And I really had to take a step back and ask myself what was going on. And it was a really interesting conversation because I've been in and out of that space for years. And I think as we get older, as females, bodies change, our hormones change. So many things are shifting on us that we need to hold the standards that we have. They need to be pretty rigid, but at the same time holding them lightly within the constraints of the environment that we're having. Sometimes things aren't going to roll the way you want. So creating a standard that actually allows for things to adjust and change and allows you to see that feedback, right? It's funny because I find that the example of weight is something that most people can really understand. And you've suddenly gained 100 pounds or 50 pounds or 20 pounds and you're like, how did that happen? And all you really want is to have it not be there anymore. However, if you're holding on to the expectation that you can just change your eating, go to the gym a few times, and wada bang, wada boom, that's going to disappear, you're not accounting for the journey that you're going to have along the way. And really, you can set that transformational goal and you can start to set those standards that the person who is at the optimal weight, the person who has the financial situation that you want to have in the future, and you start living from those standards. But at the same time, you're going to have things that are going to happen along the way. When your goals are small and you're holding on to them really tightly, when they don't work out, you tend to give up quickly. Whereas if your goal is big and there's a journey to get there and you're building your standards and you're building yourself along the way, I think that allows you to adjust and move and back to the sailboat. You can adjust the sails when things don't work out. Maybe that workout plan doesn't work for you because you realize that it tweaks your bad knee. So you have to find something out. That diet plan doesn't work for you because, well, you don't like the foods that are in it. So you have to tweak and adjust. And there's not going to be that easy way to the result. And if we hold the transformation apart from us, we're living into the person we want to be whilst at the same time allowing ourselves to still be who we are right now.
Yeah. And I think this also speaks to not taking things personally. The fact that this little foster that I have with me, the fact that she can't do something on both sides, that means nothing about me. It means nothing about my worth. It means nothing about my skills. just means that's where she is today. If you can't clean a trail or you're struggling doing something, that doesn't mean anything about your worth or your value. It's just feedback for what's going on at this point in time right now. Tomorrow, it might be completely different. I think that's one of the struggles of being a woman, is that frequently, depending on your age and your cycles and things, your body can change. You have no idea why. You don't even know what's going on. Like, hey, I was super high energy yesterday and today I feel like garbage and just want to sleep. You don't even know what happened. And yet we still have to adapt to that. And again, it doesn't mean anything about our self-worth, our ability to achieve things, our goals, or anything. It just means today I don't feel great. Tomorrow your energy could be back again. Who knows? It means it might be time to check in with your self-care, check in with your cycle and figure out where things are, but it's not indicative of who you are as a person. And I think that's where we get hung up oftentimes, is that when we're working along and we have a goal in mind and then it doesn't work the way we think it should, we take it personally on ourselves. Like, I'm a failure. I can't do this. I can't do that. I'm not a bike rider. I'm not a horse person, whatever it is. And when we do that, it does us a disservice to ourselves, because then it prevents us from being able to look for other options and look for the next best answer in the moment. And we sell ourselves short, because we are capable of doing hard things. We are capable of meeting challenges, but we've got to adapt along the way in order to get there. And working lightly is one of the easiest ways to do that. If we're not holding on so tightly to the expectation, the timeline, the way it's gonna look, and all of those things, then we can adapt and get there whenever the time is right at that point.
Yeah, I tried cold dipping for, I guess, the first time, let's say. And it's funny because I actually looked it up and I was like, what is cold dipping? And the range of temperatures, so the temperature of the water in Mexico is about 20 to 24 degrees. And the highest low temperature for cold dipping is at around 18 degrees in Celsius, whatever that looks like in Fahrenheit, right?
Cold. I can tell you that's cold.
It's fairly cold. And
there a conversion.
There are days when I'm walking into the water in Mexico and I'm like, oh, this is cold. I'm like, Tash, it's like above 20 degrees. You're not even in the realm of cold. And I went into the Columbia River and it averages around like 5 degrees Celsius. So, that's what, like maybe getting to 38 degrees or something like that. It's cold. We were on the lake for 5 days. And on the last day we were there, I was like, I'm going to go for a run. Like, I need to 10x myself at this point. And I'm going to go for a run. I'm going to get nice and warm. I'm going to go cold dipping. I got this. I'm going to do this. So I went for my run, came back. I got changed. Me and Ian wandered down there and I'm like, you got to come because I need someone to put the timer on to tell me how long I'm doing this for. And I really wish he'd gotten some video footage of me as I'm walking into the water, and that's okay. And I'm like, this is cold. Like, my feet are freezing. And I'm going up and I get to like halfway up my waist and I'm like, this is really cold. And I get to the point where I can actually now go down. And I'm looking at him like, I don't know about this. This is stupid. This is so crazy. Why would anyone do this? And then I like go into the water and I get to my shoulders and I come straight back out. I'm like, no, I can't do this. I can't do this. This is stupid. I can't do this. I'm like, okay, let's try again. And so I let myself stand there until my lower part of my body was really quite cold and started to go numb. I'm like, well, I don't have to deal with that anymore because I can't feel it. And then I lowered myself in and I was like, I can do hard things. I can do hard things. And Ian's like, you've been 30 seconds. I'm like, okay. And so I calmed myself down. I started breathing normally. I took myself into like a Zen space. And he's like, it's been over 2 minutes. And then I went under the water and came back up. But at every part of that journey, I was totally okay with being like, okay, that's as far as I got. I'm going to try again tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like, I was holding very lightly to whether I would actually manage to do 2 minutes. I was holding very lightly as to whether I would go under the water. I was holding the whole thing with just a real like, okay, let's try this. Let's see how I do. And then my goal is that this summer, while we're up in north of Vancouver Island. The water is very cold there. I can walk across the road. I walk into the water. I can go cold dipping every day with there being very little barriers between me and that cold water. And now I know I can do it. And I actually was like, that was really fun by the time I got out. And I'd like to go and do it again. But there's a pretty big barrier in that I have to drive 20 minutes down the road to find the river to go for a cold dip. And to be quite honest, right now, that is a little bit too much. I've got other things to do. I'm not that attached to this cold dipping thing. And that's okay. All of it is okay because it's just an experiment. So whether I achieve the goal or not, it doesn't make me a better or worse person. This is something that is pretty hard, like deciding to go into that colder water. It might not be something that you can do first time round. And it might not be something that you're like, okay, now I'm going to do that every day, because that might actually not be possible, right? So
Yeah, no.
really, I think just really being able to hold it lightly is really important.
Yeah, you won't catch me in water that cold, like, ever.
I used to say that. I've been saying that for a long time. And this has been in the back of my mind. And it's been a thought pattern of I have been practicing by going more into the water on days. Like the last day we were in Mexico, I ran down to the beach and then I went for a swim at 7 o'clock in the morning, which is not the warmest time to do it. I know I said the word Mexico, but it doesn't mean it's warm. It's still winter. And it was beautiful. And I was like, what am I missing out on by not doing these things because I think it's too cold? And I think that's another way of really framing this in your mind too, is what are you missing out on? I'm going to bring in a snowshoeing example here. I used to run snowshoe tours, and I would have people that would show up and they would have their new snowshoes and they'd just taken them out of the box and they'd had them for a month or whatever. Started at the beginning of February, they got them for Christmas, and they were too scared to put them on and walk around their backyard. They had snow in the backyard because they were waiting to be shown. Because their expectations of the whole experience were too high for them to allow themselves to just experiment and maybe fall flat on their face, maybe fail. And so because they had this idea and this expectation of what it was they were going to be experiencing, they didn't try it on their own. And sometimes that's really important. And other times, it's like, just give it a go. You might find that it's actually easier than you thought it was going to be. And if you let go of all of that fear of falling flat on your face and failing, then you can start to move into bigger realms.
Yeah, that's definitely a pattern of mine that took me many years to identify, that I don't like starting anything if I'm not fully confident in the outcome. So I will have art projects in my head, or if I want to do a project in the house or even outside in the garden or something, if I don't feel really confident about the outcome, I won't begin. And that's like the opposite of holding things lightly, right? I think this also speaks to our cultural idea of being in school, that we're drilled, don't make a mistake. You're bad if you make a mistake, if you mess up. And then what that means is when we become adults, we have this fear of making mistakes or trying and experimenting with things to see what will work for us. And I certainly know plenty of people who are much better at this than I am, my boyfriend being one of them. But yet there's a lot of very normal behavior that doesn't make it a good thing, but a lot of very normal behavior around the way we respond to these types of situations. Like, oh, I can't take my snowshoes out of the box until I've had somebody show me, which is kind of funny because when we had a 30-inch snowstorm here like 7 or 8 years ago, I actually bought snowshoes because I realized in that much snow, I couldn't get to the horses or anywhere else if something happened. It's just too deep to function in. And of course, it hasn't snowed that much since. I think I've worn them twice. But I was always very excited to get a chance to wear them because we never get to do things like that here. And snowshoeing is very hard. You need to be fit to do that for sure. But it was fun. I'd love to do it more, but there's just no snow here.
Yeah, it's not a challenging sport, but it is hard work. And I think I want to bring in something that you made me think of, is that, like you said, your boyfriend's really good at that. But he's not good at everything, right? It is so within our brains to look around and see big things that other people are doing and be like, oh, well, they're just better than I am. But really, the person who decided to buy a house and their dream and what they wanted was to completely renovate it and completely change it, there's someone who's stepping into their wants, not their needs. The person who buys the house and makes the renovations that they need to in order to make the house functional, they're doing what is within their ability to do, and they're not going to feel that they've let themselves down. Whereas that other person has gone, I want this, and they tell you about it and you're like, you're crazy. Like, A, that's a project that there's no way I could comprehend taking on, and B, like, that's so not going to work. And then you watch them and they make it work and they make it happen, and you're like, how did they do that? I don't know how they did it, and well, why could I do that? They did. Maybe I could. But we don't. Instead, we're like, no, like I can't do that, because our expectations, we can't imagine not succeeding, and especially if we've told other people. Now, I'm going to buy this house. I'm going to completely renovate it. It's going to be this and that and the other thing. And you're like, but the house is fine as it is. Why would you do that? And it's because they're living into that world of like, what do I want versus what do I need? And they're willing for it to take a long time, but they're also then stepping into that, what do you need to do in order to make this a reality? And quite often when you step into that bigger picture, the things that you need to do become very, very clear. Whereas when you're like, well, I just need to paint the cabinets because they're not that nice. Well, then you're like, well, what color do I want to paint them? And how am I going to do this? And there's 100 different ways. And so it might take you 10 years to actually do it because you don't make that decision, right? Whereas if you're just going to completely upheaval and renovate the whole thing, the path becomes a lot clearer, because there might actually be only one way for you to do that, if all of that kind of makes sense. But just really that wanting, we're not allowed to want, because if we want things, well, if we don't get them, then we don't want to try again, because we're holding on so tightly and we're judging ourselves. And back to the whole thing is like, we don't think we're good at that. How do you know?
Yeah.
You know, we weren't very good at managing how to do a podcast, and now we're figuring out how, when my internet breaks, we've actually got a plan. And we've figured out how to fix it, because we've had a couple of blips where we've lost a whole episode. And doing that totally stops us as well. And it's these little things that we could be like, we're just not doing it anymore. Or I've been all up and over the place the last week, and it's been really hard for us to get together and do this podcast. And we could just call it quits because this is too hard. But the goal is bigger, and we are driven by that goal. We're also very much, if it did not happen this week, we'd be okay with it. We'd be like, well, that's just what happened. The world is not going to fall apart if I don't put out a podcast this week. We'll just do another one next week.
Yeah. I think that it's really a skill to cultivate the ability to work lightly in this way. I know my boyfriend, you're right, he's not good at everything, but he's good at a lot of things. And mechanical things is one of his very unique talents. And he has the ability to just sort of dive into a project and figure it out as he goes. And it's something I admire greatly about him, and that he has taught me, which is probably why I even attempted to work on the farm at all, because sometimes you do have to start something and then figure it out as you go, and you can't worry too much about what that process is going to look like, because you're never going to know. And frankly, every time I've worried about something, it's never turned out the way I worried it would. So there's really no point in going down that road. And I think when we resist these things and when we don't work lightly, we end up playing small. And that doesn't serve us. It doesn't serve our talents and our skills that we have and our gifts that we have to bring to the world, some of which take cultivating Just because you have gifts doesn't mean that they're easy to use or that it's easy to bring into the world. And when you work lightly, you have a lot more ability to adapt and adjust and receive information without judging yourself or the situation for it, so that you can keep moving forward. And that's how you do big things. It's just one little thing at a time.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I'm reading a book right now, and it's about 10x being easier than 2x. And it's by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And so much of what you just said is exactly it. When you set a transformational goal, and a transformational goal is setting something that is not within your realm of possibility right now. It'd be like us saying, we're going to have 1 million downloads on our podcast by December 25. And it's like, well, we can't do that. I don't even know how to do that. And that is when you know it's a 10x goal. And in order for you to achieve the 10x goal, you don't just do the thing, but you actually have to 10x yourself in the process. And that's exactly what you were just talking about, is stepping into that bigger vision and then taking it one step at a time and knowing that you do not know how to do whatever it is that you want to do. You want to lose 100 pounds. You've never lost 100 pounds before. You have no idea how to do it. You might know how to do a lot of other things, but you don't know how to do that. You're in a financial crisis and you need to get out of it. Clearly, you do not know how to be that financially informed person because you are not right now. But if you set that goal, you know, like, okay, well, first step, I need to find someone to teach me how to do this. And that's going to be the first step. And then from that, you're going to learn the second step and the third step. But if you have really big expectations, you are going to go back to the transactional goal. You're going to go back to just doing 2 times. And doing the little thing, it's easy. If we want to be like, yeah, we're going to get 10 more people to listen to our podcast this week, we can figure out how to do that. There's 100 different ways that we could go about doing that, and they're all going to mean that we have to work way harder. And the whole concept of going bigger is working less, because you get really focused on what the key things you need to do are. Back to that 100-pound weight loss, right? There are key things, there's probably 5, that you need to do right now in order to get you on that path. But if you're like, I'm just going to lose 10 pounds, it's actually harder to lose the 10 pounds than it is to lose the 100 pounds, because you don't have to completely transform who you are in the process.
Yeah. I think the other piece of this that you're talking about is the focus. It's the clarity of focus on the overall end result without worrying about the stuff in the middle. The stuff in the middle will reveal what you need to do next as you go along. But when you have the ultimate focus in mind, then you can keep moving towards that no matter what. If you're sailing and you need to change your sails, that's great. But you're not going to worry about learning like paddling skills or kayaking skills while you're in the middle of sailing, because that's not your focus. Your focus is on sailing the boat where you need to go. So why are you getting distracted with something else? Cultivating focus is also super challenging in our world, because everything is designed to be distracting and everything is designed to hold our attention in a very superficial way that is not conducive to effective, deep work. So it takes very intentional acts in order to challenge that. And along the way, you have to continue to work lightly towards the same goal. The stuff in the middle no longer really matters at that point. It's just the next best step along the road of getting to the goal. And we could probably go down a whole nother episode with a talk about focus, because that's a big topic as well. So we won't get into that today.
We won't get into that. And I'm just going to wrap up what you just said by saying that everything that you're just talking about is what gets us stuck in the gap. And the gap is not a fun place to be. And when we hold on tightly to things, we get very much stuck in the gap between where we are and where we want to go. And we're just riding in the weeds. If you're wanting to be a better mountain biker, you need to decide what your next goal is. What are the trails? What type of feeling do you want to have when you're on your mountain bike? And then take the steps to get there. Otherwise, you get stuck in the gap between, I started riding a bike And I'd like to feel more confident on it, but I just don't really know how. So I'm just going to keep doing the same thing I did yesterday and have the same results and never really get there, and always feel ugh, and never get that full like, oh my God, this is so much fun.
Yeah, I love it.
All right, I love it. Okay, perfect. So I am Natasha Lockey. I am a performance mountain bike and life coach. And what that means is that I am all about helping you define that gap and figure out how you can get from where you are right now to where you want to go, so you can live the life of your dreams and you can start really stepping into, you know what, I want to do this with my life. And looking at the ways that you can really step into that future vision. Because when you actually start really defining what you want, everything changes. You can find me on Facebook, Natasha Lockey. Find me on LinkedIn as Natasha Lockey. And my Instagram handle is at Betty Go Hard. So reach out if you are looking for help, as I say, in your life journey. And I am a professional mountain bike coach and can definitely help you if you are looking for some skills and wanting to increase your performance so that you can increase your confidence and have more fun in your life. How about you, Ginny?
Yeah, I'm Ginny Branden. I'm an animal communicator and energy healer for animals and their people too. And I can help you if you are having relationship challenges with your pets or just struggling with emotional or behavioral issues, whatever it may be. I can connect intuitively with your pet and will help the two of you get back on the same page and get back to more harmony. So you can find me on the web at soulpetconnections.com and on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube under the same handle. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. We would love to hear from you. You can find us on the web at ridingintheweeds.com. We've got some cool extra blog posts and things there. And you can also find us on Facebook and Instagram, also under Riding in the Weeds. So we love to have you along for the ride and appreciate you being with us.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I am going to say, please review us, especially if you're listening to us on Apple. We'd really appreciate the support. And we really enjoyed having this chat with you guys today. I hope this was helpful. We will be here next week, so stay tuned.
Bye.
Bye.